Hello, let's talk now about the release. The release is basically the flow that the development team follows in order to take some code to production. It varies depending on the team, how big the team is, and what are the needs for the team in terms of testing, integration, etc. Let's see some examples of releases. The most basic would be something like this, which is development environment, and then from there we just go to release. So we just prepare the code in one branch, and then we just push it to production. That would be the simplest, but it only works when, for example, there is only one developer and then nobody else is there to check the code. But then if the team grows, then there will be a need of having a few more steps. Also, in terms of testing, it's really important to have some step in the middle when we are also integrating different changes into one before releasing to production. Let's see a second example. In this example, we have development environment, integration environment, and then we go to production. Why do we have this integration environment? As I said before, sometimes we have the need of prepare few changes and then integrate them into one. Also, there can be the possibility of doing some system changes, and then we just check everything on the integration environment, and then when we are sure that everything is ready, then we release to production. We can complicate this a little bit more and add a UAT environment where we will be testing different things than we would test in integration environment. Those things will be, as the definition of UAT, unit acceptance testing environment, there will be checks that are closer to the definition of the product, which means we have everything working as we expected, but is this what the product or business team wanted it to be? So that will be checked in UAT, for example. And then let's complicate it a bit more. Imagine that for the integration, apart from system changes that we could do, we have also different features being developed at the same time, in parallel, but in different environments. But we want to release all of them at once. So we could have this structure, this flow, in order to support that need. It's basically the same as before, but we have more work in parallel. Let's see now an example of how will we apply testing to one of these flows. Let's see this flow. Simple flow with all the steps. There could be more steps, but let's consider just these ones. And let's see what testing steps we could take in order to check that every step that we follow in the flow is passing our expectations. For the first part, in the development environment, as we are basically creating a new feature or modifying something, we could just apply a feature testing, which is we are just testing what we are creating. Then when we go to integration, we could run also other tests that assure that we are not breaking anything with the addition of our new feature. And of course, we can retest our feature. Then when we go to UAT, we are not making changes in the code, but there could be some changes in the system. So we just want to be sure that everything is merged correctly in the new environment and external changes are not affecting our code implementation. So we just run end-to-end tests. those tests are not that many as the regression testing, but we could cover most of the things that are important to us and we can proceed to the production. And sometimes in production, we just want to run a few tests in order to check some really fast change that we did before and that we couldn't test before because we were in such a rush and it was that small that it wasn't worth to spend time in another environment or follow the whole flow. Depending on the case, depending on the time, depending on many factors, the testing that we plan can be different, because if we don't have no time, then we basically will reduce the amount of testing, for example, using end-to-end tests. But if we have more time, it's good to be testing from the beginning so that we don't propagate errors to the next environments.